Happy Tuesday, everyone. It is an episode of Dualistic Unity Social. We're kicking it off today with just some exciting news in general. As we said on Sunday, Andrew is here in Nanaimo. Yesterday, we did another cannabis strain review, which I'm very excited about because those are a lot of fun to do, but it's also a great way to connect with the community because while we're out and about, we get to see some cool stuff, talk to some cool people. We chatted with another business. We went down to the downtown area where currently they have reconstructed everything because The Last of Us TV series is being filmed in the downtown core. And so it was really neat to see all of these things that were kind of influencing the businesses down there, but also really exciting the locals and everything else. So it's just been fun, I guess is what I'm saying. And then this morning we kicked off the day by chatting with one of our community members who's also an investor in Dualistic Unity. And it was such a refreshing conversation because I have been in conversations with investors where it's very droll, it's very boring, it's very, tense. And this was not. This was just a great conversation, a chance to connect, shoot the shit. And it was a great way to kick off the day. Went for a walk after that, filmed a video that inspired me throughout all of this, just to remember that our idea of reality, our idea of ourself, our idea of God, they're never the real deal. And in that we find faith. And so everything's just been an act of celebrating faith lately. It's been a lot of fun. And so I'm stoked to share all of that with you. We have a call-in show after this where we get to go through another act of faith.
Mm-hmm. Oh, like it always is, because the idea you're trying to maintain or hold on to, or any conceptual idea of what you think you are ain't it, and like trying to maintain that's always going to trip you up, get in your way if you're assuming that there's a right way for you to act based on previous actions, based on previous ideas, based on previous things that have happen in your life, finding out, a right way to be, a right way to live. And so if there isn't so much, then we're saying you can't just step through each moment, having faith in yourself and continuing on as best you can. It's like only you get in the way of that. So that meeting this morning was awesome though. And I think it's just kind of reflective of the podcast too, because this isn't about, getting to a better spot or a new situation where everything in your life is, just perfect, exactly how you want it. It's like, because then it's all being passed off to something else, something outside yourself. That's not really faith. So anyway, I was talking about the meeting there, and reflective in the sense that it was just a conversation and just getting to know some people. And so it's awesome to be able to connect with someone who could potentially be involved in helping this train rock and roll in whichever tracks we find ourselves, which may not be any tracks at all. So and
that's it. They are involved. We're involved. Like, this is it. This is happening now. It's fucking exciting. Like, it's incredible to be at this point with Dualistic Unity. The next month and a half is going to be transformative in the extreme. And you're going to see this in a lot of the programming. You're going to see this in a lot of the schedule changes. You're going to see this in just some of the ridiculous shit that we're going to get up to, because lately it has truly dawned on me that they can't burn me at the stake anymore. And it seems fucking ridiculous to even consider, the rational argument against belief as something that's so much of a hell-worthy trespass that somebody's going to get violent about it. So I figure, fuck it, and even if that's the case, fuck it, because it's about fucking time we questioned some shit that needs to be questioned and found some faith in the process of doing so. This is why a lot of my videos lately have been a little bit more to the point. I do want to answer a question that came from the comment section over here on Instagram. Hello, everyone. When does the call-in show start? 6 p.m. Eastern time. So in about an hour, a little less than an hour, you're going to be able to join us. If you'd like to join us, it will not be here on Instagram. It will be on twitch.tv/Dualistic Unity, or go to YouTube Live, Dualistic Unity. You can find it there. Or if you don't want to watch any ads, you can go to LinkedIn, where it's just the live stream. And we appreciate if you follow us on LinkedIn. That's actually a huge help. We've got a good following on LinkedIn right now, but it's very much because this is a growing thing. And what do I mean by this is a growing thing? People are tired of being sold a silver bullet that turns to shit. At the end of the day, I mean, there is an ongoing conversation in our society out of necessity. I mean, we've all just been led for so very long that we've forgotten how to stand on our own. And again, like, that's a developmental thing. That's not something that's inherently wrong with our species or our culture or our society or anything else, any more than it's wrong for a teenager to judge themselves and judge everyone else by virtue of the way that they've learned to think so far. But that's true collectively too, and we are facing this idea, or rather facing this moment, this recognition that if we do not grow up, and by grow up, I mean just stop defining ourselves by our petty opinions and our gripes and our concepts that divide us, like if we don't let that shit go, as we do when we grow from teenagers into adulthood, then we're always going to end up living in this kind of Lord of the Flies scenario where everybody's just trying to see who's on top. Everybody's just competing with one another, and there's no sense of unity. There's no sense of empathy. There's no sense of us being all in this together. And so it's a necessary conversation, and we're all feeling it. We're feeling it all the time. We feel it in this, what they quote unquote call the mental health pandemic. It's like, it's not a pandemic. This is a result. This is a result. Like, we make it sound like we're catching a fucking cold. It's not that. It's just we're so caught in the ideas that are in our head that we actually think we have to have more ideas to get out of them, rather than to recognize that they're not reality. And then deal with that uncertainty. Because if you're looking at somebody that you have an issue with because you have an idea, an assumption about them, and all of a sudden you go, right, but I don't know. All of a sudden, it's just you and that person staring at each other, trying to figure that out. It's a whole other world to be in. Something can change there. Something can grow there. Empathy can exist there. But as long as you're existing in a place where you're looking at your idea of them, nothing can exist there except conflict and fear, because there's no sense of connection. So this is a necessary conversation, and it's exciting. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I'm stoked that there's so many people who are involved and invested, not just in terms of finances, but in terms of just spending the time to listen to this and be here for these live streams and the call-in show that's coming up. It's a very exciting time. So thanks everybody for being here and listening to my TED Talk.
There you go. Because like being willing to look at that and see, like, okay, I've tried this route, tried this route, tried this route, tried this route. Like, every single one kind of leads you to this point where it's like, oh, I'm still thinking about myself and needing to think about myself in some way, shape, or form in order to interact with reality. And as long as there's some idea of yourself interacting with reality, like, you're going to see some other idea that then you're going to have, based on your own judgments about yourself, your own thoughts about yourself. You're going to have some thoughts about them and about needing to be involved with them. Oh yeah, we're figuring out. Yeah, there we go. No, perfect. I didn't need to say that out loud. But having that sense of, and it's that sense of control. That sense of being able to know yourself and being able to know someone else. And if neither of those are there, then you are just left with what is, just left with reality as it is, which, you have an opinion of or a preference about. It's like immediately you're back in some judgment, some thought, and it comes with that judgment about yourself too. And that's all it is. It's just having your own opinions, your own preferences, and that meaning something about you, and that being kind of what you stand on is this perception. And it all kind of ties in together as soon as there's some flutter of opinion or preference or thought about anything. It puts you back in this story, in this narrative, in this thinking thinking about things that gives you this feeling like, you do have some degree of control when you still don't. You're just thinking. That's all. So, yeah. That's what I got for now.
Absolutely. I want to say again, hi to everyone in the comment section, because right now we're streaming on 3 different Instagram platforms. We've got Dualistic Unity, Not Andrew Murnane, and Coalition for You. Hey, we appreciate you being here. Jackie, sup? We see you in the comments. Amanda is also in there. Amanda is actually shortly going to be sitting here somewhere in this room with us while we figure out how to orient that on a social screen. So Dualistic Unity, again, is going to have that evolution in the very near future, as well as going out and about and doing stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And if you have any ideas for programming, I encourage you to throw this out there. I had one the other day. Actually, I keep meaning to bring it up, and I keep forgetting. So why the fuck not right now?
Yeah.
What do you think about like garage sailing?
Yeah.
Why not?
Sure.
Like Gary Vee's always like, oh, it's the easiest thing. You're a mug life, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Let's fucking do it. Let's put it to the test.
Yeah.
Let's document the whole thing. There's enough yard sales
Yeah.
in this town.
Oh, yeah. Sounds great.
I got a big fucking basement there that we can store it in, fucking ship that shit off, and we can show you guys how it's done if it works.
There we go.
Right?
Why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that could be awesome.
Man, there is nothing I want more than for people to just have fucking time to live. Like that, to me, that's what that is. Like, I don't work for money. I work for time. That's what I work for. Isn't that fucking ridiculous? Like, I sell my life a little bit at a time just to get some time back. And that's why I want people to be able to make money in a way where you put your time in, you put your work in, you face your doubts, you face your fears. It's not that you're not doing that, but you're not running for a certain segmented amount per hour that continues to dwindle because things keep getting more expensive around you. Like, you have enough to live, you have enough to pay your shit, and you have some fucking time to live your life. I want that for everyone. I really do. Like, there's nothing more important in this existence than your fucking time. It's your time. This is why sometimes people are like, oh, I never feel like I get a chance to rest. There are moments. There are moments in your day. That's when you rest. You're hoping for a place where you're just like sitting on a sunny beach with nothing to do and someone bringing you drinks. And now I'm resting. But are you going to sacrifice all those moments of rest between then and now? You can have a moment right now. Breathe. Just feel everything and remember you're in a room, or that you're walking down the street, or you're driving your car, or wherever the fuck you are. This is what's happening right now. This is it. This is all that's happening. Feel that. Breathe it out. There's your moment of rest. Now get back to work. You got more shit to do. But you see, there's so many moments where you can do that. There's so many moments, and it's easy to do. It's just to remember that the shit in your head is not reality. Where you are now is reality. That doesn't mean it doesn't matter what's in your head, because a lot of that is shit you agreed to be a part of, habits that you formed over time, relationships that were created out of need, things like that. These are all things that will change over time, but they will change based on how much you remember what this is all about, which is something you will only find in those moments where you stop to breathe. It doesn't have to be 5 minutes. It can be a second. It can be half a second. And if you can recognize that it can be that, then it can grow.
It's just like that willingness to open the door to it, even just to let it be right there as it is, and not even assume that, oh, I gotta hold on to that, or I gotta maintain it. It's just a willingness to, for a moment, you're like, oh yeah, all the issues, any issue that may, run through your mind, run through your head, is just doing that. That's the only thing it's like, otherwise you're here, and there's not that sense of being able to think about or know what's next, or having so much of a sense of what's playing out, or what situation, like being on a computer screen at this time of day, at this hour, in this spot or location. It's like all those things kind of fill in afterwards, but there is that sense of, in this spot just right here, there isn't so much of a external, that sense of knowing exactly what moment you're in. Even it's like the whole our whole experience kind of stems from that spot, knowing myself as I'm going through something, knowing how I'm doing as I'm going through the thing that I know that is happening in any situation, and all those that ability to judge anything, like the constant ability to just judge how you're doing is not necessary, because it's either this thing that you don't have to do, and it's not really either, because it's never black or white. You always have the option to judge yourself, like anything, even if you are, you go through a lot of things, overcome a lot of things, become, just improve yourself a lot. There's still in any given moment the opportunity to judge yourself, and usually it's that sense of improvement, even too, that sense of getting better at something. It's like getting better relative to who or what, because it's relative to someone else, and there's always a spectrum with that, as opposed to just doing it for you, like living your life for you, because there's not a need to judge that when it's that sort of involved experience. It's not about how anyone's perceiving anything or looking at you or how you're doing, because you're not measuring yourself to build yourself up against anything. And so that how you're doing isn't as relevant anymore, but it goes on both sides. It's that sense of, feeling good about doing well, and then not feeling great about not doing well. And it's just like feeling like you got to jump to different spots, set a goal. So I feel, this amount better, but it's still just where your head goes with it,
Well, that's just it, right? We're like, no, if I jump into this, I'll be facing something. And there's this idea of what you're jumping into now, which actually makes it harder to do. Right. Whereas you could just accept, like, I don't know what I'm going to get out of that, but I know I've never done it.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that funny? Like, it's just jumping into the uncertainty of the situation, but we want to jump into the uncertainty of the situation, certain about how it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just like, I'm going to do something new. I'm going to face a fear and it's going to go well. It's like, that's not uncertainty. That's not working. Whereas you could just go, well, I'm going to jump into this experience because I've never had it. So I don't even know what to expect. I don't even know what doing well in this experience means. I have this idea of what it means. It means that I'm going to do everything perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
But that's so ridiculously impossible for anything, because you can't do that. Nobody does that. Nobody starts anything and does it perfectly, because they're learning, which is the perfect thing for them to do. So the whole point is to just jump into it. And the less assumptions you have about how you should be doing, the less expectations you have about how it should be going, the more you're paying attention to what's happening, which is when you learn things faster, which is what cuts down that road from fucking being a beginner to being a master, because you're actually there. But the more you need to be a master, the more you will stumble as a beginner.
Oh yeah, because if you have that bar really high, then it's like you're always trying to reach it, and there's no way, if you come up with some idea about how some situation is going to go, it's like being able to even be remotely close to that bar if it's something new, which you do certain experiences a number of times, but like each and every time you do anything, we've sat here a number of times. This is brand new experience. There's brand new things to talk about and discuss and share and all of that, like each and every time you show up to anything. But if you're trying to do it where you're trying to feel better or make yourself feel better about how you're doing, or wanting to mitigate some sense of like not feeling like you're doing it as well, it's like you're going to focus on something else, try and come up with some assumption. They go hand in hand, because otherwise, and being willing to admit that every experience is brand new, moment to moment. It's like there's a lot more excitement in there. There's a lot more just potential enjoyment of that. If it's like, oh, this is exciting because it's brand new. There we go.
Exactly. I just realized that on Twitch it says Dualistic Unity replay, because yesterday we had a replay
right
while we were doing shit, and you were settling into town. So
yeah.
Hey, Twitch, it's not a replay. This is live. Hi. I'm not going to fix it right now because that sounds like a lot of work. But I just want you to know it's not a replay. That said, if you have any questions, everyone, Today we have our call-in show, and it's call-in in that it's a call-in show. It is a QALL because it's a Q&A and a call-in show. So if you have a question and you don't want to be on the show and ask it, then you can participate by either being on Patreon, just messaging us, or actually better yet, don't go to Patreon. Forget that. Go to Discord. Go to our community Discord. Let me throw that up right now. There is a question section on our Discord, which Jazz, our Discord god, was nice enough to point out to me today and remind me of. So if you want to go there and submit a question in the Q&A section, there's a little form.
Right.
Where it actually asks. Yeah, it's dope.
Oh, shit.
So
all right,
we'll check that out during the call-in show. If you're on my Instagram account, go and check out Dualistic Unity on Instagram. If you're on Andrew's Instagram account,
we got TikTok over there.
Oh, is that TikTok?
Yeah.
Go to Instagram. Yeah. Check out our Discord. You can find it on our website at dualistiCunity.com/community. Submit your questions there because we will definitely try and answer them. If you can't do that or don't want to do that, you can also ask your questions from the comment section in the live stream while we record this episode. So just don't leave Twitch or YouTube or LinkedIn. Actually, LinkedIn, we don't see your comments. It's so goddamn complicated, isn't it? Right. Just join us on YouTube, I guess is what I'm saying, or Twitch, and we'll see your comments and your questions, and join us on Discord. I'm going to stop talking, pass this over to Andrew, because obviously I've started rambling into nothingness, and apparently I'm not done yet. Where's it going to go? And it's gone.
Yeah, no, that sense of, with the LinkedIn stuff. It's fun to be able to just follow. Oh man, hold on. I'm like, hold on, where is, because I was looking at the live down here and I was like keeping my ears open, but I know. I wish LinkedIn was connected somehow to the comments.
Same with X Twitter. Like there's people that can watch us right now on X Twitter.
We get a number of people.
Absolutely, but we can't read any of their comments.
Right.
Which, is unfortunate. But shout out to Restream.io nonetheless, because they are the ones that are making all of this happen on so many platforms. So while I'm like, there's so many little things that aren't working on this, on the other hand, I couldn't do this otherwise without any of this. So thanks. Appreciate it, Restream. I'm going to stop bitching like a little whiny bastard and just continue on with what we're doing. That said, if you have a comment, go to Discord or join us on Twitch or YouTube. I've made that abundantly clear. I'm going to stop beating a dead horse. Yeah. And instead, I would like to talk about the video that I just released today, which just plainly says, it can help to remember that your idea of God is a false idol. This is what I was happy about the other, just for a couple of days here. I didn't record it because, I don't know, there was shit happening. Things that were going on. It wasn't as important. But I recorded it on the way home today before recording this live stream. Mm-hmm. And I really like that, because my whole life as a Christian, I was always like warned about false idols, false idols, false idols. It's like any idea of God's a false idol. Like any of it, because it's always a self-soothing idea. It's a concept. It's a limitation. And we've gotten so used to doing that. It's kind of like we've forgotten the whole point.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's what remains. It's not anything you're thinking about in the same way you are not anything you're thinking about. And that's faith. Right. Isn't that funny? Just being here in reality without going, it's this is faith. It has nothing to do with spirituality.
There's nothing even you can write about or talk about or say or express for someone to look to realize that. So it is always, with it when it comes to like talking about it versus application. I mean, talking can be application as you step through and continue to do things and share things. But it's like that experience of faith has nothing to do with any thought. In fact, thoughts oftentimes get in the way of just continuing to have faith and being able to have faith in yourself and whatever you're going through or dealing with or facing, or whatever feelings pop up, whatever experience you're going through, whatever thing is there, that you're doing or dealing with in the moment. Like, as you go through things like that, it's like that's the experience of building faith. And so jumping into new stuff and trying new things is the best way to very quickly learn how much faith you can have in yourself, and so that's for jumping outside your comfort zone or trying new things. It's like, yeah, there's absolutely this not immediate benefit, but at least even just making the leap, taking the jump is a component of that, having faith in yourself. And so being able to, face any sort of thing that's, in front of you or to deal with or situation, and being able to just, show up and get through it is the oftentimes, just the thing, like in and of itself, that's what's doing it. It's not even understanding, how you're doing with something. It's just doing it.
It's doing.
Yeah.
Can you accept that? Isn't that funny? It's like you can have the life you want, but you don't get to track it.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can have the existence of being fulfilled, but you don't get to actually like keep progress reports on yourself, because that just throws you the fuck off. That's so funny. It's very much like walking a tightrope. Like I said, the more you think about it, the more you wobble. You just got to go.
Right.
Like it's so important to recognize that. I had a question here, or rather, we have a statement, and I wanted to address it. I have questions that I should potentially ask a therapist, but for some reason, I'm convinced that you two would give a much more beneficial answer. That's up to you. I would say that regardless of who you talk to, it's really going to come down to your ability to recognize that you're already working on this. Like if you have questions, it's because you're working through them. And that's important. Like to recognize that you're asking certain questions that maybe you didn't feel comfortable asking before of anyone, including yourself, is a really important step. We don't recognize that. Sometimes we feel that because we feel lost, we are not making progress. Not recognizing that feeling lost is, again, kind of the beginning of every journey, right? No matter what you start, you're going to feel lost at first. You take up skateboarding, you're going to feel lost at first. You take up writing with your left hand, you're going to feel lost at first. Like it doesn't matter what it is. And so when we're asking questions about ourselves, when we're looking through things that we were attached to, the immediate place we go is that feeling of being lost. Rejoice. Be excited about that, because it means you're going into unfamiliar territory, which means now you're learning new stuff about yourself. And that's going to widen your context. But we panic when we feel lost. We think that we're doing something wrong. We're like, oh no, I don't feel sure anymore. I feel like a baby again. It's like, yeah. And now you're going to grow up in that direction. It's not that you are a baby, but you feel like a baby in this new environment, in this new mentality, because it's all new. It's all raw. But you can grow up real quick in all of these different environments because of all the things you've learned along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm definitely feeling some of that, these days, jumping into a brand new environment, new situations, new experiences, new city, new, going to get a new apartment, everything, and being in a different, location. It's like being willing to realize like, oh yeah, it's going to feel unstable, unsturdy, uncomfortable, at times throughout different new experiences and being in new environments. And that's just part of the adaptation process. It's just, when you stay in certain situations or kind of gravitate towards similar, comfort zones throughout your life, it's like you don't remember almost that feeling of, oh, this is brand new, and this is another opportunity to have faith in myself. And eventually you do, but it's like a balance of adapting and having faith in yourself, because it's always like some degree of a mix of both. And I guess, how much you're just willing to be yourself in a new environment kind of like shortens that adaptation period. It's like it brings the situation closer to where you're at, and your own sort of mentality. And for me, like having gone to new high schools and stuff, my quote unquote adaptation or whatever oftentimes took a while, because initially there wasn't necessarily that much faith in myself or what I had to share or express or do or get involved with. And so yeah, being able to like see that experience, like experience that firsthand now, and being able to have places to chat about it and talk with people on Patreon about going through similar experiences, because that can be your life. It doesn't even have to necessarily be in a brand new environment. Like, that can be day to day, moment to moment, because again, it's like you're never doing the same thing twice. You're always doing new things. And if you keep thinking that you're doing the same thing over, you're going to maintain, that way that you're doing it and how you're doing that sense of, yourself along the way, but not measuring, especially being able to go through the new situations without measuring that progress so much, assuming that you can know along the way. It's like it's going to play out. And so assuming that it's going to play out in a certain way or in a specific way is just going to make it that much tougher, to go through new situations in new environments.
But that's what we do. And we do that most with the things that we're most afraid of. This is why, for a lot of believers in the afterlife, that's the point. They're afraid of death. So they want some certainty of what's coming after. Right. They're like, okay, but if I do these things and I believe in this thing and I abide by these rules, then when I die, which is the thing that scares me the fucking most, then I'll be okay. Now I can go through my life not realizing that all of those things I've attached to are causing me to have conflict with everyone.
Right. Yeah.
Everyone, making my existence here hellish.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just because I can't get over that fear. Yeah. And this is a conversation I had recently, because again, I've been posting a lot of videos about faith and reality and whatnot. And when a lot of believers are talking about death, they're like, yeah, well, in the afterlife, you're going to pay, or what do you think happens when we die? And I keep responding like, God is of the living. And we have a hard time recognizing that. We really do. Because we keep thinking about the idea of ourselves. And when we think about the idea of ourselves, that's something that can end. Right? But if you think about it, that idea has ended many times in your life. You're not the same idea of yourself that you were when you were a kid. You're not the idea of yourself at all, but you've had numerous different ideas of yourself throughout your entire life. Have you mourned the death of each and every one? No. And it's because it became another idea. Well, what if you let go of that idea now? This is what we talk about in terms of ego death. It's not really ego death. It's an ongoing egoic suicide. It's just to let that idea go and actually find yourself here in reality. Now, when you are in reality, what you realize is that that's all there is. That's all you've ever known. All you've ever known is existence. Why do we have this fear of non-existence when we've never experienced it? What makes you think that existence stops being once you die? The idea that you are what you think you are. That's what makes it so terrifying, but you're not. And if you're not what you think you are, then you are what remains. And what remains is what is. And that always is. That's what they mean. What Jesus was talking about in terms of eternal life. It's not that you are going to survive in the afterlife forever. Because holy fuck, does that sound terrible? Doesn't it? Think about it. Think about all the things you enjoy in this life right now. Maybe you like bowling. Maybe you like playing pool. Maybe you like dancing. Maybe you like to sing. Maybe you like doing artwork. Okay? Now take that and extend that over eternity. Do you really think you're going to continue enjoying it forever? Do you? Can you imagine doing the best things in your life forever? They would eventually start to feel like a prison. You'd be like, fuck, I want to die. Why the fuck can't I reset this shit and start over? And that's the gift we have, is this ongoing cycle of renewal. We look at it as dying, but it's renewal. We're like, I get this fucking incredible story where I get to experience all these things I love and make the most of it. And then before it gets boring, before it starts to get fucking tedious, it goes out gracefully, if I allow it to, and then continues on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. That has nothing to do with an afterlife. It has nothing to do with God's goodwill. It has nothing to do with whether or not you are a sinner or not. That is what is for everyone. And if you think about what I'm saying there, and the argument is always, well, what about terrible people? Do they deserve to go on forever? Blank slate. Think about that. Every time you're resetting all the fucking damage. Okay? But that also means you're getting to experience all that damage and the ones, that you're going through, because we're all learning from one another. These are all potential lifetimes. This is why it's so important not to focus on whether or not you're going to go to heaven or hell after death, but to make something of now. This is what you got. This is what you got. Okay? And I think it's easier to fear death than to come face to face with the fact that you're squandering now.
And so if you don't want to look at that, if you don't want to look at, maybe the question that you're squandering now, it's like there's going to be, some attention given to death, almost like as a immediate distraction to like being here. Like what pull, what focus, what thought, what opinion, what thing can pull me from right here, and like if I assume that it's possible to do it, it just becomes it's just a distraction. Then it's just a focus on something to be able to maintain some sense of like, this is what I am, like this right here, this thing that I'm thinking about is me, separate from everything else. But if it's not the case, if that's not the case, then you're not separate. You're not separate from anything at all. And so that's where, the faith in yourself is kind of like, it's not put to the test necessarily, but it has an opportunity to be looked at and like seen like, oh yeah, just being here is having faith in myself and not reaching back to some thought, some sense of control, some sense of, idea of how it's going. Just of how it's going, just of how this moment is going relative to every other moment. But we'll, expand things out based on assumption, preference, all these things to feel more certain. It's like everything but this here, because right here, it's like there's no sense of what's going on or what's playing out or how things are working or functioning, or even the thoughts of like you being something separate from the words that you're sharing or saying. Like it kind of takes that separation for a second to be like, I'm speaking these words instead of just words are happening, words are playing out, but I'm still doing them. I'm just assuming that I have ownership of them, that I'm speaking or saying something. And
The me that's separate from everything.
Yeah,
Right?
Exactly.
My father speaks through me. That's what he was saying. Like,
mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that, like the next action of the whole.
Yeah. And that's all we're ever doing is like, whether we think we're in control or not, whether we assume that we do have some sense of being able to predict almost what's next, in our lives. So we'll basically just create a structure, plan things out to have some sense of a guarantee that, oh, I have all of these plans and this is going to, make me this, and this is going to be good for me here, and this is going to be not good for me here. And I'm, afraid of this and I'm excited for that, and back and forth instead of, just being where you're at, and not needing some other thing outside of yourself to do it, not needing, some purchase, some item, some vacation, some other thing, because any other environment you place yourself in anyway is just different. It's still you in that experience, maybe having certain thoughts about it, but the experience itself is still just what it is, no matter where you are or where you go. And so,
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I want to have an opinion, damn it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that you can't, it's just to recognize that your opinion's not the truth. It never is. It's funny. Somebody was arguing with me the other day. You're like, you're obviously confused. The truth is what we can believe in. It's like, that's never the truth. It's never the truth, because anything you believe in is a figment in your head. It's not what it is. Like, if I asked you to think about anything right now, at the very best, all you can do is come up with an assumption.
Mm-hmm.
Really, like you think about a tree. You're not thinking about that tree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Take that in. You're not thinking about that tree.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're thinking about is all the things you think you know about the tree. But to actually be with the tree, to actually be there beside the tree, that's to know the tree,
Mm-hmm.
to actually experience the reality of the tree. But it has nothing to do with a conceptual knowing, right? Even if you were to, memorize all the parts of a tree, that doesn't give you any more knowledge about the tree. Any more than ripping a human body apart. A human body apart gives you some idea of where consciousness comes from. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why can't we find ourselves? That's because you're not in there. Not in the way that you're looking for. You're looking for yourself like you're on a shelf somewhere operating the robot. And it's not that. Awareness is ubiquitous. Awareness is the foundation of everything. We're all expressing it. It's just that because awareness is always expressed as I am expressing it, we have this natural tendency to think that we're different eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fascinating. Even though we have stuff like, like twins, for example, two human beings that start at literally almost exactly the same place
Mm-hmm.
and have almost the exact same influences.
Right.
And they actually are connected on a level that's way deeper than most other people. They can read each other's thoughts almost. They answer they finish each other's sentences and stuff. Well, why is that any different other than the fact that their stories are so similar?
Mm-hmm. Right.
See, it's just that the concept of that division isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
The different story's not there.
Right.
So all of a sudden they're like, of course we can read each other, but all of us can do that.
Yeah.
Empathy is just allowing yourself to see beyond the story that you hold on to recognize all the feelings and all the things that you've learned from that story, and to recognize we're all learning the same shit.
Mm-hmm.
The story is irrelevant. It's the stuff underneath.
Oh, man. Because, that can be for anyone. For anyone, as soon as you come up with some idea or story. And so I wonder with twins if they're, they feel like they're seeing themselves or they're closer to it. It's like there's less variation of, oh, this is very similar to looking in the mirror, because it's like it looks very similar, obviously, with identical twins. But, if that can be the case where if you're not holding on so tightly to something that you assume that you are, you think about, like right now, if I say, think about yourself, like if you have some mental image, it's like, that's just what you see. That's just that isn't a guarantee of anything else. And so then it's like, if you're not as focused on that, if you're not as focused as in you thinking that you even know what's best for you, or that you do have some sense of idea of how things are going to play out or go, like it doesn't need to involve then this character, also this image. And then there is the opportunity to realize that, if there isn't so much of a sense of how I'm doing, then I don't have to have so much of a sense of how anyone else is doing, or assumptions about what they're thinking, or how they are perceiving me, or how I'm doing anything. And so if that's not the case, then you don't have to take any of it so seriously. It's like, oh, it's going to be what it's going to be. It's going to be uncertain. Even if I do make assumptions about it, it's still uncertain. And so, stepping through and having faith in yourself makes a lot more sense when it's like, when you get there, it's going to be uncertain too. And it's going to keep being able to be doing that. And you're going to have the same opportunity to judge yourself then, no matter what you get through, no matter what you go through, as you do right now. And that, can in a moment even like cut you back a little bit to just being right here.
Yeah. Where you just make the most of where you are. Because it's like, oh shit, just this? What do you mean just?
Yeah.
What do you mean just? And that's very much the point. But we're going to continue on very shortly in 15 minutes. If you'd like to be on the episode with us, it's a call-in show. So that means you can be on the episode for up to 10 minutes. If you don't want to be on the episode and you do have a question, I encourage you to check out our community Discord. Go to dualisticunity.com, click on community. Goes right to the Discord. There's an ask a question section on there. You'll find the link in the general thread if you can't find it otherwise. Ask a question, or wait until the live show and ask a question in the comments section. But we will be back in about 15 minutes, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you being here.